4th December 2024. Another normal day in the streets of New York. The United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, is scheduled to speak at an investor conference today. But destiny has some different plans for him. He is the top executive of a $500 billion company which affects the health and lives of millions of Americans. He was walking in a busy part of Manhattan close to Times Square and Central Park, unaware of the danger. Then, there is this unidentified man, whom we are going to call X in this video, is wearing a mask and a cream-colored jacket, waiting for Brian to arrive. As Brian walked past him, X took his pistol with a silencer attached to it, and exactly at 6:45 shot Brian in the back and leg. Brian was pronounced dead half an hour later in the hospital. This is the terrible assassination of Brian Thompson. X took a bus that originated from Atlanta and came to New York. It is still unclear that from which part of the route he caught this bus. On arriving, he booked a cab and visited the vicinity of Hotel Hilton, where he would later execute the plan. He spends the next 30 minutes there before going to his hostel, where he will be staying for the remaining days. He checked in the hostel using a fake license of New Jersey. He has to share the room with two other guys. Here it becomes extremely important for him to keep his identity and plan a secret from both of them. As a solution, he decides to wear a mask all the time. Days passed by, and finally it was time to execute his plan. He took a subway and then went to Starbucks. He purchased a water bottle and 2 protein bars. After shooting Brian, he escaped the scene on foot and took an e-bike after that, which he rode towards Central Park. Then he took a taxi to the Port Authority bus station and escaped New York without being caught. Now the police became very active, and through investigations, they managed to collect more than 200 images of the suspect from his arrival in New York until he fled midtown Manhattan after the killing. On Thursday, that is on 5th December, they shared 2 clear images of the suspect. In one of the images, he can be seen smiling with his mask pulled down. It was taken when he was flirting with a hostel receptionist. At that time, he didn't know that this small mistake is going to be the reason for his arrest. Friday, 6th December 2024. During an intense search in the Central Park, the police found some evidences that can help them to get closer to X. They saw a backpack lying in the park which might have been carried by X at the time of attack. On opening it, the police found a jacket and some Monopoly game money, but there was no gun. X did another big mistake. He threw the plastic bottle and the wrappers of protein bar at the crime scene, which he had bought earlier. New York police sent these evidences for forensic tests. A cell phone was also discovered on the route of his escape. Investigators are trying hard to know about his contacts and movements through this phone. It is not sure that whether he dropped his phone by mistake or it was all a part of his plan. But there was one thing that confused even the smartest of detectives and officers working on this case. Bullet casings that were found on the scene were carved with deny, defend, depose. Although it is not clear why it was written on it, but the police is assuming that it is a reference from a 2010 book, Delay, Deny, Defend. The SBI also declared a reward of $50,000, along with $10,000 from the police, for anyone who will inform them about X. To carry the investigation further, the police went to Brian's house, where another important piece of information was revealed to them. Brian's wife, Paulette Thompson, told the police that he had received some threats before the attack. She was unable to provide much detail about these threats. She said, "I just know that he said there were some people that had been threatening him." Even after these threats, Brian was walking normally on the streets without any security. If they had informed the police about this earlier, then possibly he might not have been killed. Several miles away from the crime spot, at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, a man came in wearing a mask. As he sat down and removed his mask to eat, one of the customers went to an employee and said, "There is that shooter from New York." Police was called immediately, and when they arrived and checked his bag, they found him in a possession of a black ghost gun that can be assembled using a 3D printer. He was also carrying several fake ID, including the license of New Jersey that he had used to check in the hostel. He was also found with 3 pages of handwritten documents in which he seemed to express ill will towards corporate America. The document also said these parasites had it coming, and "I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done." He is Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old man who was brought up in a wealthy family in Maryland. He had no prior criminal records. All those people who know him consider him social and friendly, still not believing that he could do something terrible like this. He had an account on Goodreads, a user-generated book reviewing site, where he publicly kept a track of more than 300 books. From there, police came to know about his insights and intentions. He had also lost touch with his family and friends. From different sources, investigators came to know that he had grudges towards the healthcare system of USA. And he was the kind of person who believes that when all forms of communication fail, violence is necessary for survival. In rarest of rare cases, a person indulges in crime without any specific reason. This video describes about the case of Kelsey Patterson, who became extremely violent as a result of his delusions.